Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Lagos, lived a couple whose love was the kind that people wrote songs about. Adeshina and Morenike. They had been high school sweethearts, the kind that made others believe in love. They were inseparable, walking hand in hand through university, sharing dreams of the future and laughing at life's little joys. When they got married, their love was deepened. It was a kind of love that felt unshakable. So, when Morenike became pregnant, it was as if their happiness had reached its peak. Adeshina pampered her, playing music to her belly, whispering stories of how perfect their little family would be. But life had other plans. A few days after giving birth to their beautiful daughter, Omomi, Morenike suffered complications that the doctors couldn't reverse. She passed away in her sleep, leaving Adeshina with a newborn and a broken heart. Adeshina was shattered, but he didn't let his grief consume him. He made a promise to Omomi. You will never feel the absence of love. I will be both father and mother to you. For 3 years, he poured everything into raising his daughter. He turned down every suggestion from family and friends to remarry. His world was work and Omomi, nothing else. Then came Ayotunde. Ayotunde was Adeshina's colleague at the law firm where he worked. She was smart, ambitious, and carried a warmth that made people feel safe around her. She noticed Adeshina's routine, how he always declined after work gatherings, how he rarely talked about his personal life, and how he always carried a tiny pink lunchbox alongside his own. Then, one afternoon, during a break, she playfully nudged his arm. Who is the lucky person with the pink lunchbox? Adeshina chuckled. A sound so rare that he was even surprised by it. My daughter, Omomi, he responded. That small exchange sparked a curiosity in Ayotunde. She didn't push, but over time, little pieces of his life slipped into their conversations. She learned that he was a widower and that he had raised Omomi alone for 3 years, and that despite his exhaustion, he wouldn't trade fatherhood for anything. One day, a firm-wide picnic was announced, and everyone's surprised, Adeshina finally agreed to attend with Omomi. When the day arrived, Ayatunde spotted them instantly. Omomi was a bright-eyed little girl, her hair in a neat ponytail, clutching Adeshina's hand with the kind of trust only a child could give. The moment Ayatunde set her eyes on Omomi, something instantly sparked in her heart, something she hadn't felt before. She instantly fell in love with the little girl, and her heart instantly broke that she is motherless. She went closer and said a simple hello with a warm, bright smile, and instead of overwhelming the girl with attention, Ayatunde waited. Noticed how shy Omomi was around strangers, how she clung to her father's side. But as the hours passed, she found small ways to ease into the little girl's world. She started with something simple, a bubble wand. She blew a few bubbles into the air and pretended to chase them, laughing when they popped on her nose. At first, Omomi only watched, but curiosity flickered in her eyes. Then a small giggle escaped her lips. Do you want to try? Ayotunde asked gently, handing her the wand. Cautiously, Omomi took it, her small hands gripping it tightly. When she managed to blow a stream of bubbles into the air, her laughter rang out like a melody. That was the moment the walls cracked. For the rest of the day, Ayotunde and Omomi played together, chasing bubbles, drawing in the sand, and sharing snacks. Adeshina watched from a distance. something shifting in his chest. After the picnic, Ayatunde didn't force her presence in their lives. Instead, she let Omomi take the lead. Over time, it was Omomi who began seeking her out. At work, she would send little voice notes through Adeshina's phone, random greetings, excited ramblings about her day, or just a simple, Auntie Ayo, are you coming to visit? Ayatunde started showing up, not as an intruder, but a friend. She helped with school projects, braided Omomi's hair when Adeshina struggling with the parting, and sat beside her during bedtime stories when her father was too tired to keep his eyes open. She never tried to replace Morenike. She spoke of her with warmth, making sure Omomi always knew how loved she was by the mother she had never known. And somehow, through these small unspoken moments, she became part of their world. For Ayotunde, it was never about Adeshina. It was about Omomi. And through loving his daughter, she found a way into his heart too. 3 years after Morenike died, Adeshina finally allowed himself to love again. And when they got married, everyone thought she would immediately want children of her own. But she surprised them. Let's wait a little bit. We are not in a hurry, she told Adeshina one night, holding his hand. I want to give Omomi all of me first. I need some time to bond with her before having other children. Adeshina had never loved her more than in that moment. She wasn't just stepping into their lives, she was choosing to be a mother in every sense of the word. For years, their life was full of laughter and love. People often mistook Ayotunde for Omomi's biological mother because of how deeply they were bonded. But life always finds a way to test love. One evening, while sorting through old photo albums, Omomi came across a picture of Morenike. She held it up, looking between the image and Ayotunde. Mom, she asked, do you ever feel sad that you're not my real mom? The question hit Hayatunde like a wave, but she smiled and pulled Omomi into her laps. Well, I may not have carried you in my belly, she said softly, but I carried you in my heart long before you knew me. Being a mother isn't just about giving birth, it's about choosing to love every single day. Omami looked at her for a long time before throwing her tiny arms around her. Then you're my real mom, she whispered. At first, Adeshina was grateful for the way Ayotunde seamlessly became a part of their world, grateful for the way Omomi smiled more, laughed more, and thrived under her gentle care. But as the months passed, he started to notice something unusual. Ayatunde's love for Omomi was not just that of a stepmother trying to bond with her new family. It was consuming. She was fiercely protective of the girl. If Omomi so much as coughed, Ayatunde will insist on taking her to the hospital. If a teacher at school gave her a less than perfect score, Ayatunde would be at the school demanding an explanation. If another child made Omomi cry, she would insist they be reprimanded. At first, Adeshina brushed it off as the growing pains of a new family dynamic. She was just adjusting, learning what it meant to love a child that wasn't biologically hers. But then, the shift became undeniable. One evening, as Adeshina entered Omomi's room, he overheard a little bit of their conversation. But my baby, I am here now. You don't need to think about the past. Adeshina's heart tightened. He knew Ayatunde loved Omomi. But what is she doing? Was she trying to erase Morenike? The more he paid attention, the more he saw the signs. Omomi's baby's pictures, with her late mother once placed lovingly on the bedside table, had been moved to a less noticeable shelf. A hand-woven cloth Morenike had made for Omomi was no longer on her bed, but neatly folded away in a drawer. Even casual mentions of Morenike in conversation seemed to make Ayotunde uneasy. One day, Adeshina found Omomi crying in her room. "What's wrong, my love?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "I wanted to take my teddy bear to school, but Mommy said no. She said it's too old." Adeshina frowned. He knew that teddy bear. It was a gift from Morenike before she passed away. Omomi had carried it everywhere since she was a baby. Something had to be said. So, that night, after Omomi had fallen asleep, Adeshina sat Ayotunde down. "Ayo, I love you," he began, reaching for her hands. "And I have never doubted how much you love Omomi. But I need to ask you something." She nodded, her face unreadable. "Are you trying to replace Morenike?" The question hung in the air. For the first time, Ayotunde didn't give a quick response. She looked away, biting her lip, as if searching for the right words. "I just," she finally said, voice shaking. "I just love her so much. Sometimes I forgot that I wasn't there from the beginning." Adeshina sighed, relief and understanding washing over him. "You don't have to replace her to be important to Omomi. She has a room in her heart for both of you." Tears welled in Ayotunde's eyes. "I just want her to see me as a mother, not someone temporary." Adeshina squeezed her hands. "She always does. But part of loving her means keeping her connected to where she came from." That night was a turning point. The next morning, Ayotunde sat with Omomi and placed the teddy bear back in her hands. "You can take it to school if you want, my love." She also retrieved the photos, helping Omomi put them back where they belonged. And when bedtime came, she did something she had never done before. She sang the exact lullaby that Morenike would sing for her the few days she was alive, embracing the past instead of running from it. From that moment on, Ayotunde still fiercely loved Omomi, but now with a love that didn't erase the one who came before her. And in doing so, she didn't just win Omomi, she won back the full trust of Adeshina. Because love isn't about replacing, it's about making room. For a while, things felt peaceful. Adeshina believed they had crossed the hardest bridge in their marriage. Ayotunde was more mindful of Omomi's need to remember her late mother, and their family felt whole again. But something lingered in the shadows, something Adeshina couldn't name at first. Ayotunde was an incredible mother, too incredible. Every decision in the house revolved around Omomi. It was as if Ayotunde only existed for the little girl. At first, Adeshina found it endearing, a sign of her deep love. But now it was beginning to feel unnatural. One night, as they sat in bed, he reached for her hand. "Ayo, do you ever think about us?" he asked gently. She looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean our marriage, our relationship. I feel like everything is about Omomi. We barely spend time together as husband and wife." She smiled. You're right. But isn't that what we signed up for? Parenthood?" "Yes," he admitted. "But marriage needs love too, not just parenting." She nodded quickly, but changed the subject. And this became a pattern. If Adeshina tried to plan a date night, she would refuse to leave Omomi alone. If he suggested they travel, even just for a weekend, she insisted that it was unnecessary. If he wanted to talk to her about their future, She always redirected the conversation back to the child. Slowly, an unsettling realization crept into his mind. She didn't love him. She never did. She had married him because of her mommy. Now that she had the little girl's love, Adeshina felt like a stranger in his own home. It wasn't just the marriage that suffered. Ayotunde's possessiveness over her mommy started showing again, worse than before. One day, Adeshina received a call from Omomi's school. Mr. Adeshina? The teacher's voice was hesitant. There has been an issue. Your wife came to the school today and demanded that Omomi be moved to a different class. She was upset about her teacher's approach. Adeshina frowned. That doesn't sound like a reason to move her. Well, she also asked that no other child be allowed to borrow her school supplies because Omomi is not like everyone else. His stomach tightened. He knew Ayotunde could be overprotective, but this was extreme. When he confronted her that evening, she looked at him completely unbothered. I did what any mother would do, she said flatly. Ayo, this is not normal, he argued. She's a child. She needs to make friends. She needs to live like a normal kid. She's not a normal kid, Ayotunde snapped, her voice rising for the first time. She's mine. Silence filled the room. Adeshina felt his chest tighten. She is ours, he corrected. And before that, she was Morenike's. That was the first time Ayotunde truly lost her temper. She's not hers anymore. She's mine. I am the one raising her. I am the one she runs to. I am the one who loves her the most. Her voice cracked, and suddenly Adeshina saw it. The truth behind her obsession. She wasn't just trying to be a good mother, she was trying to own her mommy. Adeshina took a deep breath, his hands trembling. Ayo, I love that you love her, but you cannot erase the rest of the world. You can erase me. She was breathing heavily now, her eyes filled with something he couldn't quite place. And then, in the most chilling tone, she whispered, Maybe I don't need you. The next few months were filled with tension. Adeshina tried everything: therapy, long conversations, even taking time off work to be home more. But Ayatunde couldn't change. She no longer pretended to be the perfect wife. She only cared about being the perfect mother. The final straw came when Adeshina walked into her mommy's room one evening and found her crying again. What's wrong, my love? He asked, kneeling beside her. She hesitated, then whispered, Mom said I don't love her enough, but I do love her. His heart shattered. That night, he made his decision. This wasn't just about his marriage anymore. This was about his daughter's well-being. And no matter how much Ayotunde had done for their family, no matter how much she loved her, this was not love. This was control, and he wouldn't allow it any longer. One evening, he said to her, We need to talk. She looked at him, already sensing what was coming. Ayo, I think you need help, he said, his voice firm but gentle. And until you get it, I can't let this continue. For the first time in months, she didn't argue. She just looked at him and then at Umomi's room. Then came the night that changed everything. Adashina had to leave town for a royal business trip just for one night. Before leaving, he kissed Omomi on the forehead and promised to bring her back a special gift. Then he turned to Ayotunde. We need to talk when I get back. Ayotunde knew exactly what he meant. She had seen the suspicion in his eyes. She had felt him pulling away. And she knew if they had that conversation, if he finally voiced his doubts, everything would crumble. So that night, as soon as Adeshina left, she made a decision. Omomi was hers. And if Adeshina was starting to see her love as a problem, then she would take Omomi somewhere where no one could question her devotion. She crushed a mild sleeping pill into Omomi's evening drink and watched as the little girl's eyes grew heavy. Sleep tight, my love, she whispered, brushing a gentle hand over her forehead. Then she packed their bags. Adeshina's flight landed late the next evening. As soon as he stepped off the plane, he sent Ayotunde a message. I just landed. Can't wait to see you both. But there was no response. Maybe she was putting Umomi to bed. By the time he got to the house, the lights were off and the air felt strange. Too quiet, too empty. He called out, Ayotunde, Omomi. But there was silence. His chest tightened. He checked the bedrooms. Omomi's bed was untouched. Her favorite stuffed bunny was missing. The closet door stood slightly open, revealing empty hangers where Ayotunde's clothes used to be. His pulse quickened. She was gone. They were gone. He grabbed his phone and dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. He checked the security camera on his phone. The last recorded footage showed Ayotunde carrying a sleeping Omomi to the car at 3:12 a.m. His hands trembled. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. She had taken his daughter. Additional wasted no time. He called the police and reported a parental abduction. He called his friends, his colleagues, anyone who might have a clue where she had gone. Everyone was shocked. Ayotunde, are you sure? She loves that child. That was the problem. She didn't just love Umomi, she was obsessed. The police launched an investigation, issuing an alert at airports and major transport stations. But Ayotunde was smart. She hadn't used her credit card, she hadn't contacted anyone, she had vanished. Meanwhile, Umomi woke up to an unfamiliar scent, fresh linen mixed with a faint trace of lavender. Her bed was soft, but it didn't feel like her own. She rubbed her eyes and sat up, blinking in confusion. Where was she? The walls were a soft shade of cream with framed pictures of places she didn't recognize. She wasn't in her room. Her heart began to race. This wasn't the house she shared with her father and her mother. She looked around the room frantically, trying to find something familiar. Her stuffed bunny wasn't on her bed. Her blanket wasn't the same. The picture of a parent she always had beside her wasn't there. Mommy, Mommy, she called softly, but there was no answer. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Confusion crept in. Her heart raced. Where was she? And then the door creaked open, and Ayotunde stepped in with a bright smile on her face, as though everything was normal. Good morning, sweetheart, Ayotunde said cheerfully, her voice calm, but there was something in her eyes that felt off. Where are we, Mommy? Mommy asked, her voice trembling. Where's Daddy? Where is our house? Ayotunde knelt beside the bed, her face smiling slightly, but her eyes stayed soft. We're in a new place, darling. A place where we can start fresh. Daddy is not here, but I am here with you. But I want to go home, Omomi said, her lip trembling as confusion deepened. She tried to push herself off the bed, but her legs felt weak. I want to see Daddy. I want to go back. Ayotunde gently placed a hand on her shoulder, and for a second it felt like the tender touch of a mother. But then there was something too firm about it. I know, sweetheart, but things have changed, and you need to be strong, okay? Daddy will understand. Just trust me. Omami stared at her mother, trying to understand, but the panic inside her grew with each passing moment. This was not how things were supposed to be. For the next few days, everything felt strange. The apartment Ayotunde had taken them to was too quiet, tucked away from the city, almost as if Ayotunde wanted to be alone with Omomi. There were no other children to play with, no familiar faces to talk to. The loneliness pressed against Omomi's chest, and she began asking questions. Life in this hidden mansion was unlike anything Omomi had ever known. The walls seemed to close in around her. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness. There were no familiar sounds, no distant chatter of her father, no hum of the TV, no laughter from their home, just a heavy silence that seemed to grow louder with each passing moment. Ayotunde, ever watchful, never left her side. She was loving, yes, too loving, in fact. Everything about Ayotunde's actions made it clear that this wasn't just about taking care of her anymore. It was about possessing her. Ayotunde had taken her phone as soon as they arrived at the mansion. "It's for your own safety, baby," she said sweetly, her hands never leaving her side. "No one needs to know where you are right now. It's the best way." She had removed the SIM card from the phone and hidden it away in a drawer. Any attempt to reach out to the world beyond the mansion was futile. The outside world had become a distant memory. Their mansion was their world now. There was a middle-aged woman at D2 who came by each day to do the errands Ayotunde needed. Aditu was kind, with her tired eyes and quiet presence. She never asked questions. She simply did her job, cooking, cleaning, shopping, and left without any comment. She kept to herself, understanding that things were different here and there were unspoken rules to follow. Omomi was allowed to move freely within the mansion, but she was never allowed outside. Every time she tried to leave, Ayotunde was quick to stop her. "The world outside isn't safe for anyone as special as you," she would say with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "You're meant for greater things, my darling." Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the walls around Umomi grew higher and higher. The loneliness settled in like a weight on her chest, one that she couldn't escape no matter how hard she tried. She missed her father terribly. His face, his laugh, the way he talked her into bed at night and tell her stories about their family. Ayotunde never raised her voice. She never mistreated her. But the overbearing attention, the constant affection, it suffocated her. Every day, there was more talk about how she loved, how she was beautiful, how special she was, how everything she needed was here. But it wasn't love, it was control. And that's what started to break her. There were days when Omomi could hardly hold back her tears. She missed her father with a raw intensity. She would cry herself to sleep, clutching her pillow tightly, imagining the warmth of his arms around her. She missed the smell of his cologne, the sound of his voice, the silly argument they would have about the smallest things. One night after another one of Ayotunde's long monologues about how important she was to her, Omomi could not take it any longer. She had to see her father. She had to speak to him. She begged Ayotunde, her voice trembling, "Please, can I just call him? I miss him so much. I promise I'll come back. I just need to hear his voice." But Ayatunde, ever the calm and calculating woman, shook her head, her smile serene but unyielding. "No, darling, you can't. It's for the best. He doesn't understand what's truly good for you. I do." Omomi had tried everything to convince her, but it was always the same. Ayatunde's answers never wavered, always smooth and convincing, always for her own good. Then one day, a window of opportunity opened. Ayatunde had left the house for a few hours, leaving the mansion eerily quiet. This was her chance. Mommy had been thinking about this for days, planning the perfect escape. She knew it would be risky, but she couldn't live like this anymore. She had heard Ayotunde's footsteps fade as she left, and she quickly ran to the bedroom where she knew her phone had been locked away. Her hands were shaking as she opened the drawer where Ayotunde had kept it, her heart pounding in her chest. Without thinking too much, she found the SIM card Ayotunde had hidden and slipped it into the phone. It felt like the first breath of fresh air in months. She quickly dialed her father's number, her fingers trembling with fear and hope. The phone rang once, twice, and then, "Hello," her father's voice crackled through the speaker. "Dad!" Omomik choked out, barely able to get the words out through the tears. "Dad, it's me. It's Omomi. Please, I need you. I need you to come, please." The words rushed out in a flood, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. She heard him gasp, his voice panicked. "Omomi? Where are you? What's going on? Where is Ayatunde?" But before she could answer, she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching the door. Panic surged through her, and without thinking, she pulled the phone away and hung up just as Ayatunde entered the room. Ayatunde's eyes were cold. She had known this moment would come. "Who were you calling?" she asked, her voice eerily calm, though the tension in the air was palpable. "I wasn't calling anyone," Omoli quickly lied, trying to regain control of the situation. But Ayatunde wasn't fooled. With a swift motion, Ayatunde reached into her daughter's hand and pulled the phone away, opening it with a practiced ease. She quickly removed the SIM card from the phone, her face unreadable. "Next time, don't be so careless," Ayatunde whispered, her voice gentle yet tinged with a warning. The tears welling up in Omomi's eyes again, but she fought them back. She knew the truth now. There was no way out, not without more than just a stolen phone. Omomi was more confused. At night, she'd lie awake, clutching a pillow to her chest, listening for familiar sounds. She missed her daddy so much. Ayotunde watched in agony as each day passed and Omomi's light slowly dimmed. The sparkle in her eyes, once bright and full of life, was now fading, replaced with sadness and longing. But how could she make things right? How could she undo the damage she had done? She couldn't bear the thought of losing Omomi, but she knew that something had to change. Omomi needs to be happy. She started to entertain the idea of a plan, perhaps a way to reunite the girl with her father without losing her completely. If only she could send her back home to the life she truly belonged to, but in a way that wouldn't push her away forever. Ayatunde was determined to find a way. However, before she could put her thoughts into action, the unthinkable happened. It happened late one night, in the dead of the night. As Ayatunde was lost in her thoughts, she heard the faintest crack of the door open. She shot up from her bed, eyes wide in panic. Aditu, the middle-aged woman who had been working for them for the past few weeks, was standing in the doorway, a normal look on her face. She asked, "Did you send for me?" Ayatunde sighed in relief. "No, I did not. Please check if Mommy is okay." And then she slowly went back to bed. Omomi took advantage of this distraction and ran out with Adito phone. She did not look back. Her gaze remained steady as she pushed the door and the gate open, stepping into the night. Omomi didn't stop, her heart pounding as she ran through the darkened yard, her bare feet hitting the cold ground, her mind focused on only one thing: escaping. She had waited for this moment for so long, And now, with the help of Aditu, it was finally happening. She didn't know what would happen next, but there was one thing she was certain of. She had to get to her father. As soon as she was outside the gate, she quickly dialed the father's number. Her hands shook as she held the phone to her ear, but there was no turning back. "Dad, it's me, your mommy," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and relief. Um, um, I'm outside the mansion. I've run away. Please, I need you. Come and get me, Daddy." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, followed by a sharp intake of breath. Then her father's voice came through, filled with shock and disbelief. "Oh, mommy, my God, where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm okay. I'm outside the gate. It's so cold. Please come. I need you." And just like that, the long separation between father and daughter was about to end. A few moments later, when Ayatunde couldn't fall asleep, she walked next door to a mommy's room. Then she realized that her daughter had escaped. She was consumed by panic. She rushed through the mansion, searching for any sign of her mommy, but it was too late. The girl was gone. Her mind raced. She had no choice but to call the police. She was worried if she's gonna be okay. Within hours, the authorities were involved, but Ayatunde knew deep down that they were unlikely to find Omomi before her father did. The girl had been running for freedom, and now she had taken that first step toward it. After a long, painful separation, the day finally came when Omomi was reunited with her father. The joy in her eyes when she saw him again was undeniable. And as she ran into his arms, all the pain and fear she had endured over the past few months seemed to melt away. As the police arrived to take Ayotunde into custody, the weight of her actions settled heavily on her shoulders. She was arrested and locked up, her world crumbling around her. Days passed in her prison cell, each one blending into the next. The reality of her situation sank deeper with each passing hour. But even in the midst of her isolation, Ayatunde's thoughts were not on herself, they were on Omomi. She could still hear her cries, still see the sadness in her eyes. The obsession had turned to guilt, and guilt had turned to an aching need for redemption. But was it too late? One evening, after what seemed like an eternity of silence, Ayatunde requested to see her husband. She wasn't sure if he would come, but she needed to talk to him, needed to explain herself, to plead for one last chance. She had been so vulnerable, so broken. So when her husband entered the room, she could barely meet his gaze. His eyes were tired, full of disappointment, but there was also something else, concern, perhaps even a hint of pity. "I am sorry," Ayotunde whispered, her voice raw with emotion. "I never meant for things to turn out this way. I never wanted to hurt you or her. But I didn't know how to stop. I love her so much, I just couldn't let go." Her husband stood there, silent for a moment, processing her words. The anger he once felt toward her had faded, replaced by a quiet sorrow. He had been angry, confused, and hurt, but now he just felt sad. He looked at the woman he had once loved, now reduced to a shadow of herself. Ayotunde continued, her voice trembling. "Please, take care of her. She needs you more now than ever. I've taken so much from her. I don't want her to hate me." There was a long pause as her husband absorbed her words. He had always been the kind of man to seek justice. But what Ayotunde was asking for was not about punishment, it was about healing. And though the scars Ayotunde had left were deep, perhaps there was a way to begin to mend them. Seeing the desperation and pain in her eyes, he sighed. "I will take care of her. I will make sure she is safe. But you need help, Ayotunde. You can't do this alone anymore. The decision was made quickly. Ayotunde was granted release from jail, but not without conditions. She would undergo therapy, a long and difficult process that would hopefully allow her to face the emotional turmoil that had led her to become consumed by her obsession with Omomi. It was clear that her mental and emotional state had been fractured, and that she needed professional help to understand the roots of her behavior. During the therapy sessions, Ayatunde began to uncover the painful truth about her past. The obsession that had driven her to take such drastic measures had not been born out of hatred or malice. It had been a response to her own deep seated fears and insecurities. Ayatunde had grown up feeling abandoned and unloved by her own mother, who remarried and chose her husband over her 10-year-old daughter. Her own childhood had been marred by neglect, and as an adult, she had yearned for a sense of connection and love that was pure and unconditional. When she married Omomi's father, she saw in the girl an opportunity to fulfill the love she had never received. But in doing so, she had gone too far, trapping the girl in a life of dependency and isolation. Through the therapy, Ayatunde slowly began to understand the depth of emotional wounds. She had never learned how to let go, how to give love freely without possessing it. The therapist helped her explore the reasons why she had viewed Omomi as an extension of her own needs rather than as an individual with her own life to live. Ayotunde's journey toward healing was long and difficult, but with time, she began to piece together the shattered fragments of her soul. As for Omomi, the reunion with her father was a moment of healing in itself. Though she had been hurt, though she had been separated from him, she still found comfort in his arms. It would take time for her to heal, but she had her father by her side now. She didn't need her stepmother to be happy, just the love of someone, one person who truly understood her. Her father made sure to be there for her every step of the way, supporting her as she navigated the trauma for the past few months. The relationship between them grew stronger with each passing day, and slowly the scars began to fade. Ayatunde's road to recovery was a lonely one. She would always carry the weight of what she had done, but she also knew that her journey had not been in vain. She had finally recognized the true meaning of love, the ability to set someone free, to allow them to live their own life. And on that understanding, she began to heal. But for now, her focus was on making amends. She knew she couldn't change the past, but she could make sure the future was different for her daughter. A future where love wasn't a cage, but a freedom to grow, live, and to be herself. Thank you very much for listening to this story. What do you think? Do you think Ayatunde should be allowed back into a mommy's life? Do you think the husband should embrace her back and they all be one family? Did you think he did the right thing for bringing her out of prison, or should he have left her to rot in jail? Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section.